a hand trembling as it closes a laptop screen. How many times have you felt the floor disappear beneath you? Not metaphorically, actually felt it. Quick cuts, rejection email, empty apartment, eviction notice, wedding ring removed. That hollow knock in your chest when the answer is no, when the person walks out, when the account reads zero. Your shoulders collapse inward like they're protecting something that's already broken. Your throat tightens, your palms sweat, your mind goes quiet in the worst way, not peaceful, empty. This is what we don't talk about. These moments when you're down on your knees, literally or otherwise, staring at what you've lost. And what do we call these moments? Scars. But here's what they don't tell you about scars. You learn early. The world doesn't want to see your cracks, so you cover them. You make excuses. A filter here, a carefully cropped photo there. At work, you're flawless, polished, together. On social media, your life is curated perfection. The blemishes, the failures, the parts of you that don't photograph well, those stay hidden. We treat our history like a liability. Every scar becomes something to manage. Every imperfection a problem to solve. You've learned to perform wellness instead of claiming it, to edit your life before anyone can see the unfinished version. But here's what happens when you live behind the mask. The weight of hiding becomes heavier than what you're hiding. You've been walking this same stretch of forest for so long, the fog has started to feel like skin. Every turn looks like the last one. Every path leads back to where you started. And you know why? Because somewhere behind you, scattered in the dirt, is the map you tore to pieces. You threw it away thinking the blank space would protect you. That if you couldn't see where you'd been, you wouldn't have to remember the wounds. But safety has a cost. It looks like this. The same four walls, the same small choices, the same careful step, then another, never straying far enough to earn new scars, never risking enough to actually move forward. You're not healing, you're just stuck. And stuck starts to feel a lot like drowning. You stand in front of the mirror, tracing the line of a scar with your fingertip, and something in you reads it like a stop sign. Red light, do not pass, do not try again. But what if you're reading the map wrong? Every scar you carry, the failed business, the relationship that shattered, the dream you abandoned, you've marked it as proof. Proof you shouldn't attempt. Proof you're not built for this. Except a scar isn't a stop sign, it's a detour sign. You launched a company and it collapsed. Your mind translates this as, you cannot build. But the data actually says, that particular model doesn't work. There's a difference between I failed and I am failure. One closes every door ahead, the other simply redirects you. Which interpretation are you living inside? Your fingers trace the mirror's edge, and you don't recognize the face staring back. So you hide. You play it safe. You let yesterday's failures build walls around tomorrow. Each compromise feels reasonable. Each small surrender feels necessary. But necessary for what? To protect something that's already breaking? You know this pattern. The careful steps, the smaller dreams, the life lived in the margins of what you actually want. What's the alternative? To stay lost in this half-existence. To keep choosing the comfortable cage over the terrifying freedom waiting outside. Something has to change. Music shifts, tempo rises, brightness breaks through. You feel it the moment the light changes, that suspended second where everything you believed about your damage suddenly reorganizes itself. The shift starts with a single redefinition. A scar is not a wound, it is healed data. It's the place that was tested, hurt, and now knows exactly how to withstand pressure. Your body learned, your skin thickened, your architecture became stronger at the breakpoint, the exact place it was fractured. You are not less for what split you open. You are more capable because of it. And that changes everything about how you move forward. There's a moment when you stop running from your scars and start reading them instead, like they're coordinates on a map only you can decipher. Let me show you how to read your map. Every scar you carry marks 3 specific locations. First, your limit, the exact boundary of how much you could take before something inside you had to break. That's not weakness, that's data. Second, your lesson, the sharp clarity of what never happens the same way twice. You learn that price. Third, your launch point, the moment the wound stopped bleeding and you started building something different. 3 coordinates, 1 scar, 1 direction forward. Because here's what nobody tells you. Scars aren't mistakes that happen to you. They're the evidence that you survived the mistake and learned from it. And that changes everything about where you go next. A hand running across healed skin. That line on you, the one you thought would define your breaking point, it's actually your proof of survival. Your body knows this already. A muscle torn and mended comes back denser than before. The fibers realign, they strengthen in the exact places where they fractured. That's not metaphor, that's physics. You carried weight you didn't know you could carry. You moved through pressure that should have stopped you cold. And here you are, scarred, yes, but still standing. The limit didn't break you, it moved. You now have proof you can handle that much pressure. The question isn't whether you'll survive the next one, it's what you'll become after you do. You stand in front of the mirror, tracing the thin white line that cuts across your knuckle, a map of the moment you learned who not to trust. That scar cost you something. Not just skin, belief, safety, the luxury of assuming the best in people. A book about betrayal sits on your shelf, untouched. Advice columns promise wisdom in neat paragraphs, but they're selling echoes of other people's pain. Secondhand, bloodless, forgettable. Your scar, that's data written in your own body. Every scar contains a lesson you paid for in pain. That makes it invaluable. The discernment you gained that day, sharper than any friendship guide could offer, lives in you now, permanent, earned. That's the difference between knowing something and understanding it. And understanding changes everything. You remember the exact texture of that moment when the breaking finally stopped and something else began. There's a space between the wound and the scar, a narrow place where your body didn't know which direction to go. That's where the scaffolding started building, fiber by fiber, layer upon layer. Not a return to what was before, something altogether different, something harder. This coordinate isn't about surviving the fall, it's about what you did after you hit ground. How you pressed your palms against the earth and found purchase, found angle, found the exact leverage point you need to push off again. That's not weakness healing over, that's strength being forged. And from here, this is where your real movement begins. Here's where most people stumble. They collect insights like souvenirs, then leave them gathering dust on a shelf. Knowledge without action is just expensive decoration. So I need you to do something uncomfortable. Pause this video. 60 seconds. I'm serious. Don't skip ahead. Think of one scar, one failure, one thing you carry that still pulls at you when you're alone at night. Not your biggest wound, just one. Don't analyze it yet. Don't rationalize it away. Just name it to yourself. Because we're about to map this scar together, and that's where everything changes. Your scar has a geography, a border, a place where you finally said enough. That threshold, that moment you hit your limit, that's coordinate 1. So ask yourself the hard question. What did surviving that teach you about your capacity? Not what it took from you, what it showed you. Now say it out loud. Really say it. I can withstand. Feel that? That's not a confession of suffering. That's not weakness listing itself. That's documentation. That's a superpower you've already proven. Your limit isn't a breaking point. It's where you learned you don't break. And that changes everything about how you move forward. There is a moment when the wound stops bleeding and something else emerges. Crystalline, unshakable, true. This is your lesson, the wisdom that cost you everything to learn. Ask yourself now, what is the one sentence you earned that no one can ever take away? The thing you know in your bones. Listen closely. The lesson embedded here is always core or never complete it, own it. This isn't philosophy borrowed from books. This is your internal compass, forged in the fire of what broke you, and it will never steer you wrong again. This truth, it's yours to keep forever. Now comes the hardest part, deciding what to do with it. You're sitting in the wreckage of that moment, and here's what nobody tells you. The real story doesn't live in the falling, it lives in what comes after. This is the most important part. Where did you go from there? Not metaphorically, physically. What was the first small step you actually took? Was it getting out of bed when your body screamed no? Making one phone call when your voice had forgotten how to work? Putting on shoes, drinking water, showing up? That wasn't nothing. That was the launch. That was you choosing forward motion when forward felt impossible. That was you. Now let's map exactly where you were when you made that choice. The blade finds you when you least expect it. You will get new scars. The hustle guarantees it. There's no path forward that doesn't carve into you somewhere. A rejection that stings, a failure that humbles, a moment where everything you built trembles. That's not a warning, that's a promise. But here's what changes. You don't have to fear them anymore. You've read the ones you carry. You understand their language now. Each scar is a sentence in a story only you can decode. They become proof, not punishment. Your map isn't complete. It never will be. And that's the real power. Every scar writes new data. Every wound teaches. You're not finished learning. You're just getting started. The mirror no longer holds your apology. You stand differently now, shoulders drawn back not in defense, but in the quiet authority of someone who has walked through fire and emerged knowing its language. Your scars are still there, mapped across your skin like continents you've traveled, but you've stopped asking them to disappear. You are no longer someone hiding. You are a navigator, an archaeologist of your own strength, carefully excavating the rubble of who you were to understand who you're becoming. Each fracture you carry, not a flaw to conceal, but a waypoint, a landmark, a proof that you survived the terrain. Your head rises not in shame of the past, but in the steady confidence of someone who knows. The scars taught you to read the landscape, and now you know how to find your way through anything. Your hands steady on the wheel as the first drops of rain begin to fall. When the next storm hits, and it will, you won't see chaos spreading across your windshield like it once did. You'll see terrain you've charted before, familiar ground, ground you've walked. You'll check your coordinates, not out of fear, out of habit, limit, the boundary you've learned to honor, lesson, the weight you've chosen to carry forward, launch, the moment you learn to move again. You won't navigate by blind hope anymore. Not by wishful thinking or the mercy of chance. You'll move with proven strategy, with the clarity of someone who has already survived what's coming. The storm won't break you, but it will test what you've built. You've been carrying your map alone, folded in your chest, creased from years of clutching it close. But what happens when you unfold it? When you stop hiding the routes that nearly broke you? The detours, the dead ends, the moments you thought you wouldn't make it. Someone else sees your coordinates, and suddenly they're not walking blind into territory that already scarred you. Your lesson becomes their shortcut. Your pain becomes their prevention. This is the alchemy. When we stop treating our maps like shame, they transform. Our collective scars become an atlas, not of defeat, of resilience, of paths we've actually survived. That's how we build unstoppable things. The sound of a hand running across weathered skin. You stand at the threshold now, your palms pressed against the weight of everything you've endured. Carry your scars, study them like a map no one else can read. Share them, not as confession, but as currency. They are not your history's baggage dragging you backward through time. They are your future's blueprint, already drawn in the language of survival. Your strength was never in spite of the scars, it was always written within them. Every mark, a coordinate, every wound, a doorway, and now you know exactly where to go. Your hands rest on something solid now, a table, a desk, the weight of intention finally grounded. Every map begins with a single mark, not some distant destination you'll never reach, but the here, the place your feet actually stand. The coordinates that matter aren't found in someone else's journey. So before you move forward, before the next step reveals itself, what's the first coordinate on your map?